So now we are starting our GS paper 3 economic, and here is a topic of economic development. Here, what is unpaid work? It is the article and it is a very important question. So what is unpaid work? The work done towards domestic services in the household like cooking, child care, old age care, etc., which are not compensated is called unpaid work. So the women carry a high burden of unpaid work usually as per the men, though unpaid work contributes to well-being of household and the nation is it uncounted. It is uncounted in the national database. So basically that is not comes under the national income and national service. Basically it is excluded. By excluding this work from the economy, macroeconomy shows a clear male bias. So here is a male bias in the macroeconomy, and if we include that services also, then we can also get that women has also participated equally in the economy, macroeconomy specifically. So how challenging is unpaid work? The work itself is repetitive, boring, and frequently drudgery. Although some people might find it interesting in our household, but usually it is boring and repetitive in nature. By not providing remuneration to the situations become more problematic because there is no remuneration inbuilt here. There is no promotion also, and there is no retirement benefit as well. Why is unpaid work is a problem? It restricts opportunity for a woman in the economic and in life. The work is imposed upon the woman because of the patriarchal setup. The unequal division of unpaid work between women and men is unfair. It deprives women of equal opportunities as men have. How important is unpaid work? Basically, the unpaid work takes care of the health of the women resources, provides services to the private. So why it is important? Because unpaid work take care of the health of the human resource that provides services to the private. So means services to the private provided by the human resource, and that unpaid work takes care of the health of human resource of that particular human resource which provide services to the private sector. So unpaid work subsidize the government by taking care of old age, sick and disabled. So it basically subsidizes the government because government has to do some old age thing for the public, but now if they are doing their own, so government has not to interfere in this situation, and it will also get the benefit. Government is also get benefited from this. Now unpaid work saves a lot of money for both government as well as the private. Unpaid work is a privately provided public good which is critical for the sustenance of the mainstream economy. It is critical for the mainstream economy. Which are the problems in government legally ensuring payment to women? Now, calculation of the amount for the unpaid work is complex because we cannot decide that how much amount a woman gets to be paid if we consider this household work into the ambit of payment work. So it depends on the affordability of the government, that how much a government can afford. Women may not be agree to enter the labor market. Women may also deny from this thing, may not be eager to enter in the labor market. These wages may confirm unpaid work as women's work only. So through these wages, it can be restricted to women only. Men will not participate in this thing. So women, they can also say that you just take care of the house, you just do your household work, and you get paid for this work. Now this will reinforce gender percep- prescription of household work to women through payments. Now, where does the solution lie? What is the solution of this thing? Now, government should recognize this unpaid work in a national database by sound time use survey. The data must be integrated with the policies. The government can provision technology and infrastructure to ease the unpaid work done by women. Example: water at doorstep, LPG. These provisions has to be provided to the women. Now, it could redistribute the work between men and women by providing different incentives and disincentives to men. Means women has also contribute, and then that work can be redistributed between both. Now, for example, mandatory training for men in household childcare, etc. Means there could be a provision where men has also uh, has to take training for household and childcare work. Then the financial incentives could also be given for unpaid work. There has to be some financial benefits for things to get done. Now, payments for pension to old women 60 plus may be a better idea for compensate for unpaid work. I mean, 60 plus age old women can get the benefit, can can get benefited from this thing. Now, policies to boost the productivity of the unpaid worker must be pursued. That policies basically that policies has to be boosted, uh, which gives productivity of the unpaid work must be pursued. Now, pandemic induce disparity. What disparity pandemic has basically induced? So this is part 3 of economic and development. A study by a Pew Research Center has estimated pandemic induced disparity in India. Findings: what are the findings here? COVID-19 pandemic has had a disproportionately deleterious impact on living standards in India. Because of the sharp economic contraction, it has pushed 7.5 crore people into the ranks of the poor. The number of the poor in India is estimated to have swelled to 13.4 crores. This has reversed the gains made in the preceding 9 years. The country cut the numbers of poor by more than three-fourths in the preceding 9 years. So, corroborating this fact, the numbers of India's middle class have consequently shrunk by 3.2 crores. Now, variegated impact. The report again spotlights the widening inequality in India. Lower income populations and income have disproportionately borne and brunt of job and income losses. Now, inadequate response. The report notes the inadequate fiscal policies response. The response has been underwhelmingly compared to the tax cuts extended to corporates to spur growth in pre-pandemic times. Manrega levels of demand for job explain the struggle in the rural area. Now, proactive measures needed. With the number of COVID-19 cases once again rising, this concentratingly focus should be on policies that address the increased poverty. Now, it is an important article which is Central versus Delhi. So, it is related to paper 2 of GS, that is related to polity. Now, recently a bill was introduced to amend the Government of National Capital Territory, that is NCT of Delhi Act 1991. So, basically to amend the act. The bill implicitly nullifies the 2018 judgment by the Supreme Court. It renders the 69th Amendment to the Constitution infructuous. It centralizes India's federal polity. Now, content of the amendment. What is the content of the amendment? It defines the term government as lieutenant government here, not the elected government. It expanded lieutenant government powers by requiring the elected government to seek LG's opinion on specific matter. So it is left to LG to define these matters basically. So through a general or specific orders, it prohibits the assembly from making rules for its commitments on day-to-day administration. Now, Supreme Court judgment. What Supreme Court judgment in 2018? Supreme Court had ruled that Council of Ministers with the Chief Minister as it helm is the executive head of Government of Delhi. So requiring prior concurrence with the lieutenant government would negate the ideals of representative government and democracy. So what is the deviance? The bill deviates from the 2018 judgment by conflicting the government of Delhi with lieutenant government. The bill blurs the distinction between the elected government and the lieutenant government by requiring lieutenant government opinion before the elected government can take executive action. It effectively renders the elected government powerless. Now, what is the question here? Question is, the bill brings us to the question if the presence of the subnational government is incompatible with the national interest. Now, the Balakrishnan committee argued that as a national capital, Delhi belongs to a nation, belongs to the nation basically. It's not an individual or a separate identity. It basically a part of the nation. Now, it argued that Delhi cannot be given full statehood. What is the global experience in this regard? From Jakarta and Seoul to London and Paris have had strong subnational governments without prejudicing national interest. Mayors of these cities have gone on to become heads of government without compromising national interest. Now, the global trend is moving towards allocating greater powers to these cities' government. Now, subsidiary necessitation empowered subnational government. What is the conclusion here? Conclusion is that the effective government of Delhi is no more important than the politics that surrounds it. The degree of sobriety, political maturity, and commitment to the federal principle is required in India. It is a very important line, I'll repeat it, that the degree of sobriety, political maturity, and commitment to the federal principle is required in India. Now, vehicle scrappage policy. It is an important article as per GS paper 2 under polity. Now, the vehicle scrappage policy has been announced recently. The policy meant to incentivize the phasing out of old and polluting vehicles. It is expected to provide benefit to the automobile industry by creating demand for a new vehicles. What is the aim of such policy? It aims at reducing the numbers of old and defective vehicles on road. It also sets the basic framework for a formal system of vehicle scrappage. It aims to reduce vehicular air pollution. It also aims to support people economically while buying new vehicles. So, what are the four aims of this policy is that it aims at reducing the number of old age vehicles. Also, it provides a basic framework for the formal system of vehicle scrappage. It aims to reduce vehicle air pollution, and it also support it also to support people economically while buying new vehicles. So new vehicle reduce vehicle air pollution, basic framework of scrappage, and also reducing number of old vehicles here. These are the four basic aims of this policy. What's specific in this policy? It offers an incentive for scrapping old vehicles in the form of scrap value at 4 to 6% of the price of a new vehicle. Now, reduction in the registration fees on new vehicles purchased by people who scrap their old vehicles. Now, even the state government may be persuaded to help provide a road tax rebate of up to 25% for private vehicle. Now, second is 15% for commercial purpose vehicle. So, the automobile manufacturer may also be advised to offer a 5% discount on new purchase by people scrapping old vehicles. So, from the scrapping old vehicles, they also get benefit of 5% while purchasing new. What are the challenges here? The key beneficiaries of the scrappage policy will be a CV player, then the CV player, then the PV players. Now the incentives are insufficient to trigger replacement of a newer vehicles. Basically that 5% incentive and that 25% and 15% incentives are not enough. The vehicle's owner can already get scrap value of about 2 to 3% of vehicle price in the market. And so the incremental incentive from the policy appears minimal. So the rising commodity prices shrink the capacity of private firms to offer discounts. Rising commodity price shrink the capacity of private firm to offer discount them. Now the large number of older than 15 to 20 years old vehicle may not be active on roads because there is a because after 15 years even insurance can't work on some vehicles. So after 15 years it would be hard for any vehicle uh, to be on road, though there are exceptions to this rule. Also, the owners of such vehicles would not have the financial capacity to replace that vehicle with the new ones for the mid single digit incentive. These are some challenges. Now there is a prelim stores, that is history and General Lachita Borpokhan. It is legendary military strategist. He belongs to a state of Assam. In 1671, Borpokhan led the Ahoms in the Battle of Saragat. It is considered the greatest naval battle on the river to a victory over the Mughals. The Borpokhan used the Brahmaputra water power to defeat the forces inimical to India. Recently, the Prime Minister called Ahom General Lachit Borpokhan a symbol of India's Atmanirbhar military might. He said that Borpokhan was the inspiration behind strengthening India's naval force and revitalizing inland water transport and creating infrastructure. So now again is the catch and rain campaign. Now it is related to the environment. Jal Shakti Abhiyan, that is JSA, Catch the Rain, was recently launched. Catch the Rain. This will be taken up in all district, rural as well as urban areas. This campaign aims at water conservation at grassroots level through people's participation to accelerate water conservation across the country. It nudges the state and all stakeholders to create rainwater harvesting structures suitable to the climatic conditions. It also aims to create subsoil strata to ensure storage of rainwater. Now, the Gram Sabha will be held to discuss issues related to water conservation. So, it is Launched by who? Launched by Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Now the railway and women's security. It comes under the polity. Railway issued guidelines for the security of women across the trains and stations. Now it asked Railway Protection Force, that is RPF, to analyze the data of crimes against women over the last 5 years and create a database of such criminals operating on railways premises. That what has happened in last five years, it was asked to the RPF to analyze the data. So it is also directed RPF, that is Railway Protection Force, to ensure that the free Wi-Fi available at station is not used to download pornography. That Wi-Fi data available, it is not used to download the pornography. Means there must be some restricted sites which cannot be opened through that Wi-Fi. Now the abandoned structures in isolated places which are unguarded, unattended should be demolished immediately. Means which is unguarded and unattended areas in the train and stations, that should be demolished on an immediate basis. Now the officials to keep close lookout for the ladies coach. The officials has to close lookout and the watch and have to keep a watch on the ladies coach. Center the sanitization of both staff and passengers on women's safety to be pursued. Now the next article, that is high altitude roads. It is related to geography. 3 high altitude roads are planned to be constructed in Ladakh near the India-China border. These roads extended from ITBP base Shilunga La, Bikila and Hena to Indo-China border. All the 3 roads would be a single lane projects. 57 roads along the India-China border were being constructed. There are 57 roads basically from the India-China border. Here it is the last point, that is National Bank for Financial Infrastructure and Development Bill, that is NBFIDB. That is National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021. Means this bill has not become an act here. So it is related to the economy. Now what is the basic thing in this bill? That it seeks to establish the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development. Means for infrastructure and development there has to be a national bank. It is objective to support the development for long-term non-recourse infrastructure finance. Basically, for the long-term purpose that bank has to be established. It aims at development of the bonds and derivative market necessary for infrastructure financing. Means that bond and that derivatives has to be issued which gets benefit for the basically infrastructure financing would get benefit from this bonds and derivatives. Now the creation of these development finance institutions creates jobs and this will create jobs and boost demand of what? Of development finance institution. So we'll do it later. Goodbye.